Hello, this is the Dwarven Forge Build of the Month for April of 2020, and we are shooting this one in my basement because we're in the midst of a pandemic. But we're not going to let that stop us from kicking out some quality content. And this month we have something super high quality. This is the Psionic Maelstrom. It is a submerged illithid laboratory. I built this thing using a bunch of Underdoom sets from our Caverns Deep line. So I used one core set, one adventure pack, one natural bridge pack, one misty gateway pack, one set of necrotic terrain trays, the Underdoom terrain trays in there, and the stairway to violence, because you gotta have a stairway to violence. Also, optionally, you can use the villains pack and the hazards overlay pack if you want like a cool, the Maelstrom that this is named after in there. All of these sets, except for the hazards, are in the Underdoom encounter, which is currently on our web store. Who knows if it will be sold out by the time this thing airs, but currently it's available in the web store. The other fun thing about this build is we created this thing live on camera on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/DwarvenForgeLive. We did it live with lots of feedback from you guys. A ton of these ideas came from you guys, the viewers. It was super fun to sort of collaboratively build this thing live on camera and come up with the whole themes and the ideas. And one of the ideas was, what if it was sci-fi? And that kind of evolved into maybe we do the fantasy sci-fi version of, illithids, or the super crazy alien, biogenic, whatever, madness. Felt very alien. So it turned into an illithid thing, but it could also be a sci-fi set, so it was kind of fun to see what that felt like. So anyway, the story is a merfolk village approaches the players, and one of their best friends has disappeared into a haunted cavern, a submerged underwater haunted cavern. And the last time a merfolk went in there, they came back out stark raving mad, all shreds of sanity gone, so nobody goes in there. But of course they'll send the players on in there. And luckily enough for the players, when they get ferreted down by the merfolk, there's a pocket of air in there, and they can breathe once they get in there and don't have to worry about just dying outright under the ocean. So let's see what's waiting for them down in the Psionic Maelstrom, shall we? So our intrepid adventurers are going to enter through this tunnel here. I'm thinking for the ease of gameplay, there's some sort of crazy field that's keeping the water out of here. So even though we're underwater, there's some sort of field, right at, so maybe the beginning of this tunnel is where the water sort of cuts off so the players can walk around like normal. We don't have to do all sorts of crazy flight stands and whatnot in here. And also, if you wanted, maybe you could have the entrance cave in, that sort of thing, because that's always sort of fun, especially if they're trapped underwater or run out of air or something. They'll come down through this little tunnel and descend into this big open chamber. Probably the first thing they will notice is they're kind of on this shore. There's this pit of just nasty liquid. It's not like anything they've seen before. It's not necrotic sludge this time. Unbeknownst to them, this is an ancient brine pool from a mind flayer brine pool that is now festering and stagnant. It's 1,000 years later, and this is what happens to an unattended brine pool, right? So it's this really nasty, thick, viscous liquid that's also, it's like psychically sensitive. And I don't know what the effects are. Why don't you put in the comments if you have an idea what happens if they go in the ancient festering brine pool. Let's assume they're going to wander over here next, and there's this neat kind of raised area that they might skirt around, and then there's three major things going on over here. There's this shimmering blue wall area, which we're using a misty gateway for. There's this tall kind of tower thing in the middle with a pulsing eye on the top, which is our eldritch eye stacked on the tentacle platform on top of the 4x4 basalt. And then there's this crystal alcove in the corner. The background of this thing is this is an ancient nautiloid factory. This is where 1,000 years ago, mind flayers used to manufacture their crazy nautiloid spacecraft or spelljammers. And this was the basement of that factory. Everything else has been collapsed and crumbled or whatever, but the basement still remains. And this is where the sort of the power generator, where we create the power core of the nautiloid. So the remnants of it are, there's these glowing walls, right? So we're using the misty gateway back there. We've got 5 of those around here. Each of those glowing walls was a conduit to a different plane of existence. So we've got that one in the far corner is going to be the astral plane. There's going to be one over here. The opposite corner from that one is the ethereal plane. And then we have left and right, we'll have the Shadowfell and the Feywild. If the players go over and investigate that thing, there's going to be, let's say there's Qualith, the script of the Mind Flayers. There's like this weird residual Qualith layer. So it's kind of like, in the Matrix, like the dropping code thing. If they get close, they see the wall as like this shimmering kind of weird lines and things moving, and they can put their hand in it, and it's like a flow of weird memories and emotions. The way Mind Flayers write, it's this collection of weird memories, and it's been corrupted, kind of polluted over 1,000 years. Slash, it's also this energy coming from, in this case, the astral plane. So maybe it's like a weird mix of dreams and emotions and whatever. So we'll have some sort of info there. I'm not sure exactly what it is yet, but we'll kind of figure it out as we go through this thing. And then the central thing here. This is a power generator, and this thing, it was maybe harvested. The Mind Flayers love to harvest the organs of other creatures and use them for stuff. So maybe that eye was was ripped out of a storm giant or something like huge, in the tentacles, and that was a thing. And they used it to maybe focus the power for the power cores of the nautiloids. Right, so then it still has residual energy there, and you can kind of see probably the giveaway is that it's like pulsing on the top. Maybe there's a whoom or some sort of, just maybe it's what would be like a weird power core sound, like a wet slurpy pulsing sound or something. I don't know. There's gonna be some sort of cool sound there, right? And then in the corner, there's the crystal alcove. The players approach that. So the gag you can do with the DM is you can, when they get close, you flick that thing on using your remote, and suddenly that should give the players a little start, right? When they get close, boop, 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 this thing triggers. Oh, we need some miniatures in here. What do you think? In lieu of our standard adventuring party, we have Gary Gygax and the RabbitBurner Rabbit. We'll be exploring this crazy layer today. So when they get close to that thing, it starts going and pulsing, and it's just like a reservoir of emotion, right? And so they can feel, maybe they can interact with it, and you've got the remote, so you can change the colors. So depending on what emotions if they trigger in there, you can change the color of it to indicate kind of its status or how the players are affecting its feeling. So I'm using the strobe pattern, which is this cool gentle pulse right now, just to show that it's there and alive. They've awakened it by their presence. It's right. It's psychically aware. So hopefully the players will start messing with this stuff maybe before they wander around. At some point they'll notice on the bridge in the middle here is a merfolk fitting the description of the merfolk they're looking for. It's kind of swaying, but it's just sort of standing there strangely, stupidly. They don't know what. And maybe they can see there's a line of energy, something coming from the generator and the second generator. There's 2 lines of energy connecting this thing. So maybe they're like, oh, if we shut down this generator, we can get the merfolk out. So hopefully they'll start maybe interacting with stuff. So if they mess with the shimmery blue wall, they can get some fragments of memories from this thing. Maybe get a little bit of snippets of history of this place. Or maybe they see a glimpse of illithids, or maybe they see illithids like frantically kind of packing up, trying to get out of here. But they can definitely get a sense also that it's a conduit to another place. And maybe they can use some arcana to figure out that it's the astral plane. So then if they mess with the generator, if they go over there, they can kind of see that there's 4 inputs and like an output. Right, the 4 inputs they can figure out. Maybe that one is astral, one is ethereal, one is Shadowfell, one is Feywild, and they're all kind of still running. Right, they're still getting energy coming in. So if they can shut down the 4 gateways, then the generator should go down. They can free the merfolk. To shut down these gateways, 1 adventurer has to stand in the alcove, and 1 adventurer has to stand by the gateway, and then the alcove will, depending on what emotion it senses. So maybe they can sort of try and think about each other, and then that telepathic link will let the alcove know which gateway they're by, and then it'll feed one of them an emotion. The color will change. They'll kind of feel it, and then the other one will have to try and evoke those emotions and pour them into the gateway. It's a good chance for a performance roll. They have to do a convincing emotion. Like they have to really, it has to be real to get the gateway to shut down. At some point, if they get this one figured out, they're like, okay, great, we can just go knock out these other 3, get these things out, and we're out of here. Should be easy, right? Oh, that's when things are going to get lively. So let's say they go and they venture out onto this bridge. When they get about halfway across the bridge when it's sort of the dramatically correct time, a tentacly tendril thing burst out of the whirlpool. From the villains pack, you've got the full Underdoom. You can use these necrotic tendrils. That right. So you have a cool tentacle in it. The good news for the players is it can't quite reach them, or maybe you just have it like, you get like the edge of their leg or something, just enough to like get them scared, but it can't actually pull them off the bridge. But it's going to become a problem later. So it just kind of adds the drama. They're not alone in here. There's something in that whirlpool. There's weird tendrils coming out. So when they get close to the merfolk, they'll probably go up and investigate, try and figure out what's going on with this thing. Why he's sort of just standing there, kind of slumped, sort of swaying. And maybe one of them, if they get really close, if they're right here, they can be directly in the line from the generator, and they get assaulted with a blast of psionic energy. And maybe they can fight it off, or maybe if they don't fight it off, they're kind of stunned, and they're there for a moment, and then the players can realize that there's something, the generator's creating a psionic assault that's kind of keeping this thing locked in place. So they can't really do much right now. And if they try and drag the merfolk out of it, he starts like just screaming, and he starts losing his mind, and like madness starts setting in. So it's a really bad idea to just like brute force him out of there. They could, and then his just brain turns to jelly. Peanut butter jelly time! So they've got to shut down the generators if they want to do this right. So they may notice from here that they can go down. So when they get down here, they'll see one of the other shimmery bits. This one leads to the Shadowfell. Maybe they have to emote despair, and they can shut that one down. They'll notice that if they get two of these shut down, then the generator starts like the pulse slows down or gets a little erratic. Maybe your classic gurgly pulsing sound of a generator. Also, from on top of the bridge, they should be able to see down below, almost directly below them, is another one of these blue shimmery walls. So the adventurers, if they do get down there, they're in striking distance of the tentacles. So this one's going to be hard to deal with because tentacles, tentacles. But they also might notice that this is the fifth thing. There's only 4 inputs on the generators, and this is a 5th portal. And this one, this goes to the far realm. This is a bad one. You don't want to. This is madness inducing. You know what this one is? This one's feeding as a conduit into the Maelstrom. But we'll talk about that in a sec when we get there. All right. So hopefully they don't go down there yet, because that's going to be really scary. So the adventurers will eventually head across the bridge to the other side here. They've got another one of these generators and another one of the swirly walls. This one connects to the ethereal plane. So I don't know what emotion they'll have to evoke to shut that thing down. What emotion? What do you think of? Put in the comments, what do you think of when you think of the ethereal plane? What emotion should they send out there? So they can mess with that thing. And then meanwhile, this generator over here is doing the same gag as the other one. And there's that sort of psychic energy that it's blasting out, locking our merfolk in place. It's also to make things difficult. It's particularly high up because, this illithid, they could levitate. They didn't care, but probably it's going to make it more challenging for the players to get up there and mess with those 4 inputs, shut them down as the gates get shut down. And then they're going to have the real challenge of, once they've figured this stuff out, of getting over to the far room. So maybe if they go to this edge here, they have to figure out, how do we get over here? So once they're over here, the adventurers have to figure out some way to get from this shore all the way over here while there's a menacing tentacle in the way. I'm not sure how they're going to pull that off. That's some serious grappling hook foo they're going to need. Also, they may notice when they're over here that there's a strange thing on the wall there. We'll get back to that later. So for now, let's say they're going to go up the passage into this last room. When they make their way up this passageway, they will see the last of the swirly walls. And this one connects them to the Feywild. So perhaps they have to channel like some sort of feral emotion, like some raw nature, raw magic. Lust would be a fun one, right? But once they've shut this one down, they'll now have shut down all 4 of the gateways. All they have left is the far realm. But once they shut this one down, the generators go down, and then something terrible starts happening in the Maelstrom. They can come back out, and they'll discover that this Maelstrom is now kind of going bonkers, because it turns out that all this stuff, this weird, cool, stagnant old brine pool, this is where the illithid tadpoles, this is where they were kept, And when when this nautiloid factory was abandoned, they had to leave in a hurry, or they're trapped or whatever. The tadpoles were left here. They cannibalized each other. Only one survived. That has become a neothylid, which is like the crazy mind flayer, purple worm abomination, crazy, slimy, nasty, tentacle-ridden thing that will just destroy all. And it's been held in a stasis by these generators, the energy of the generators. And maybe it's been sucking up some of the energy from the far realm or the realms. It's just like this horrible abomination. So all the players have been seeing are these tentacles covered in brine gunk, but those are the mouth tentacles from this neothylid. So now it's starting to break free. It's starting to get stronger. The Maelstrom is getting wild. And maybe we'll do something fun with this thing, this chain crystal on the wall. We're going to say this is like a petrified, the core of the elder brain. Maybe it left its cortex, right? This is like this petrified cortex of it in case it needed to replicate itself. It was sort of its backup plan, like its clone or simulacrum, right? It's a little bottled essence of all its memories. So that thing is there. Maybe that thing, now the generators down the stasis field is broken, and that thing can kind of reach out to the players psychically and be like, take me home, take me with you, or whatever. So if they get ambitious, they can somehow get over there and they can pop that thing off the wall and run away with it and think it's a treasure. But it turns out it's just going to be a terrible, terrible thing for them later. But that'll be fun. So say they grab that thing, they somehow figure out how to get out of here. So with the generator down, the merfolk he's now freed. So the players can escort him out of safety. Get out of here! Get out of here quick! It's not safe. But meanwhile, since the neothylid is being freed, its tentacles are longer, so it can reach out. So now these things can threaten the players up here, and the crazy tentacles are coming at them. So they've got to hightail it out. Boop, 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 boop. A daring escape, and theoretically we can, with everything down, Gygax can make his exit as the tentacles come after them, and it can be a big climactic end to this whole thing. And of course, if you want, you can have the portal to the far realm could be unstable, and it could blow open and release some stuff, or maybe it sucks everything in, right? Oh, that's what it is. So the far realm, that thing starts imploding on itself and creating this crazy vortex, which is going to pull the neothylid in. So it's getting pulled in while it's trying to reach out for the players, so the tentacles are just out of reach. You can do some big climactic explosions. They race out, the whole thing comes collapsing. Boom. And that was a psionic maelstrom, a swirling whirlpool of puzzles and portals sure to flay the minds of all of your players. Kind of flayed my mind to trying to figure it all out. Be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more quality content like this from us at Dwarven Forge, even if it's content streaming right out of my basement. And if you want to check out how we made it, go to twitch.tv/DwarvenForgeLive, where you can see the building of the build of the month, where we put this whole thing together live on camera with lots of input by you guys, the viewers. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next month, and it's back to the anvil, wherever the anvil is in my basement, over here.